Okay, and we're back. I guess that music kind of sums up the texture of our times, as it were. Whenever I want to look forward to a month of guests, and we have some very special people here, the name Celente always jumps off of my calendar. Gerald is one of the rare Americans who truly has his finger, so to speak, on the pulse of what's happening here and what is going to happen. Of course, the website is trendsresearch.com. You're well familiar with him. He is one of my heroes, the world's #1 trends forecaster, and he's back to spend an hour of his very valuable time with all of us tonight. Welcome back, Mr. C.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. It's very kind of you to say those things.
Well, the truth is always easy for me.
Thank you.
Paul Craig Roberts, Assistant Secretary of the Treasury during the Reagan first term. He was also Associate Editor of the Wall Street Journal. Paul Craig Roberts is a very wise man. This is going to lead into a brief mention of another conflict, apparently, on the world stage. As most people know, we have backed Israel and the Israeli lobby for a long time. The question seems to be to Mr. Roberts and many, is Barack Obama actually standing up for America first, as all presidents should? And let me just read a little bit of this piece, 2 paragraphs from Paul Craig Roberts' latest article called Israeli Lobby Routs Obama as Dollar Dies. It did not take the Israeli lobby long to make mincemeat out of the Obama administration's no new settlements position. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is bragging about Israel's latest victory over the U.S. government as Israel continues to build illegal settlements on occupied Palestinian land. There's not much of Palestine left if you've seen that map. 5%, maybe? In May, President Obama read the Israelis the Riot Act, telling the Israeli government that he was serious about ending the Israeli conflict with the Palestinians and that a lasting peace agreement required the Israeli government to abandon all construction of new settlements in the occupied West Bank. Well, he might as well have been spitting in the wind, as they say, because nothing has slowed down. And I was reminded, Gerald, when I read this, of the last president who really, apparently, stood up to the machine that is Israel, and that was John F. Kennedy. He wanted accountability for their nuclear program, which he knew was going on. He wanted a total accounting of all the plutonium the Israelis had. And he was dead a couple months later. I'm not saying the same thing is going to happen to this man, but it's a very interesting stage when you think for a moment that maybe Obama actually does have a different view rather than just caving in to our age-old allies in the Middle East. It's interesting. Of course, the article goes on to talk about the dollar, what's happening to that. There's another article about the gold supply actually running short now, if not running out for the demand worldwide. So many things happening. Tell us more.
Well, one of the top trends we're working on now for 2010 is going to be Terror 2010. We're forecasting that there's an extremely high probability of a 9/11 magnitude terror strike on the United States.
Next year.
Next year.
Mm-hmm. Which is a month and a half away.
That's right. Yeah. And if people go back and remember after 9/11, and whether or not, we're not arguing, how it happened, what happened. We're only taking what is, and
sure.
What the reason, the rationale given as why America was attacked by President Bush was that they hate our freedom and liberty. Well, how about they hate our foreign policy? I mean, think that could have anything to do with it? Childish remark. And, of course, that's what everybody keeps repeating. The hot areas that we're looking at, obviously Israel and Iran that's right on the top of the list.
Sure.
But the real sleeper in this that's not making the news is the hatred seething throughout Pakistan with President Obama's new plans, foreign policy plans, childishly called AFPAC. I love it. Afghanistan, Pakistan.
I know.
And as you well know, there are over 1 million refugees in the Swat Valley from the United States pushing Pakistanis military to increase the pressure on the so-called Al-Qaeda influence in the Swat Valley.
Right.
And in South Waziristan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And every day you pick up the paper or go over the news, and there's reprisal attacks throughout Pakistan. Pakistan is in civil war. The moronic
Gerald, excuse me. All of you pay attention to what Mr. Celente just said. He is totally on the money. Please remember, Pakistan is now essentially in civil war. Go ahead, Gerald. I'm sorry.
Thank you for pointing that out, emphasizing it, because people don't know what's happening there.
They don't.
And again, every day, there's a reprisal, a counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
They call it, militants and terrorists are striking, but you fight by whatever means you have. Atom bomb, cluster bombs, car bombs, body bombs.
Yep.
The result is the same: dead people. The means of delivery only has to do with the ability of what you have in your arsenal. So the anti-Americanism sweeping through Pakistan is at levels never before seen. The difference between Afghanistan and Iraq, for example, and why there haven't been terrorist strikes and reprisal. Well, there are over 200,000 Pakistanis in the United States. The odds are better than even. I would say they're excellent that someone in the United States has a family that is suffering, been killed, or mortally wounded from the incursions, drone attacks by the United States, etc. So we expect something coming from Pakistan. And the other thing to look at, as again, we're only saying this not to be, crying wolf, but for people to understand that they should be taking proactive measures in anticipation of the worst that can happen. If you plan for the worst, you can always pull back if the worst doesn't happen. If you have no plans in place and something terrible happens, you have no room to move. I'm mentioning this because when 9/11 happened, people probably forgot that you couldn't get your money if you had it into CDs out because Wall Street was closed. And I know this firsthand because that's one of the first things I tried to do when I saw the plane hit the Trade Center after having watched it from when the news first broke. Because I had predicted you could go Google my name up, Celente, Celente, USA Today, December 14th, 2000, and the headline will read, 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. We warned that anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe and Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. The point that I'm making, Jeff, is I had proactive measures in place. I wasn't in panic when 9/11 happened. I was on the move. And being a New Yorker and knowing the terrain, I didn't know if the Indian Point nuclear power plant, which is 45 miles north of the Twin Towers, was going to be hit. If that happened, there would be chaos at levels that people never saw before.
Unimaginable. And let me just point out, and we're not going there, but honestly, if you